So, ever heard of Nightmare? Like a lot of other games in the 90s, it came with a VHS, which you timed with your play. The character on the video would give you instructions on what to do while you played the game in real time. Being a scaredy cat, I refused to play it when my mom bought it for us. My brother was disappointed about not being able to play it, but my mom had a solution. She bought out Rap Rat. It was a cheap, dingy little thing catered to kids my age. You went around the board, collected cheese, and the first player to reach the end would win. It seemed simple enough, and since it reminded us of Mousetrap, which we didn't have, there were no objections. We popped the movie into the VHS and set up the board. The first part of the video was just a simple explanation of the rules, as well as the instructions on how the game worked. Then Rap Rat came onto the TV. He was not what any of us had been expecting. My smaller brother, who was only 3 at the time, immediately left the room crying. The rat didn't even resemble a rat. The ears were far too big. It had a mouth lined with 2 teeth, the inside of which looked almost swollen. The most striking part about the thing, though, was its eyes. They were large, glassy, and fish-like. I asked and bothered, then begged my mom to turn it off. Then, Rap Rat suddenly shouted loudly, screaming and wailing, saying, "Wait your turn!" in a demonic, loud-pitched voice that was not at all like his normal, obnoxious, nasal voice. In the background, we could hear the narrator saying, "He's Rap Rat, and he's the boss," over and over again in a overly serious tone. The video was indescribable. Images crossed the screen in quick succession, overcut with Rap Rat's expressionless eyes. The images were things I was afraid of at the time. A person looking over a back balcony, a hornet slowly stinging someone's eye, an extreme close-up of a trencher, a pit full of writhing cobras, and a bloodied syringe filled with green fluid. We immediately turned the video off, and I ran out of the room screaming and slamming the door behind me. It took my mom 20 minutes to convince me that the video was gone. I would never ever see it again. I had nightmares all week about Rap Rat. That wasn't the last time I saw Rap Rat. While my girlfriend and I were preparing to move in together, I was cleaning out my closet of my room and found it again with the same VHS and the same board game inside. It was almost perfectly intact, save for the thick layers of cobwebs and dust bunnies on top of it. This was strange. Didn't my mother get rid of it? And what was the game doing in my room? I let out a gasp when I found it, and my girlfriend came into the room asking what was the matter. Breathing harshly, I said, "Rap Rat." She laughed a bit, asking if it was a joke. I shook my head and explained it wasn't. She didn't believe me. Nobody did. I decided that the only way to prove it to her was to show her the video. I borrowed my neighbor's VHS and played the video for her. However, the videos had changed. I saw a clown, its nose bursting and spraying blood on the screen. I saw a woman alone in a dark room, and I saw a man forced to pick up white hot metal and hold it in his outstretched hand, turning his hand into a leathery mess. The scratching I heard as a child continued, picking up, getting louder and louder. Then Rap Rat suddenly showed up and began twisting, convulsing. its arms thrusting this way and that. The costume wasn't a costume anymore, the felt was real fur. Its face wasn't plastic, but instead of a bristle of thorns and teeth, the eyes turned inwards and suddenly popped out again. Rap-Rat's huge fish-like eyes were inside out, staring right at me, watching my every move, my every expression. It grinned widely and gestured at my girlfriend and I with a single outstretched inhuman hand. I could hear the faintest scratching at my front door. The TV went blank and showed static. The scratching got louder. It wasn't scratching anymore, but thumping. The thumping of tiny feet on wood. My girlfriend embraced me in fear and my senses came in. Before anything else could happen, I stopped the video, ejected it, and unplugged the VHS. The scratching stopped. When I looked out the living room window, nothing was there. The police showed up soon after, warning us that a neighbor had seen a figure outside our door and called in concern. My girlfriend and I simply couldn't explain what just had happened, and we had to tell them that it was just us. I was furious that a children's game was terrifying me. I went to pick up the tape, but the VHS burned my hand. Yikes, it felt like I had touched a Bunsen burner on the highest setting. We had to get the oven mitts from the kitchen in order to take it out, and even then, it was scorching hot. I brought it outside, tossed it down on the sidewalk, and crushed it with my winter boots. Afterwards, my girlfriend and I had bad dreams every night. We would both wake up in the middle of the night and describe eerie, similar images we saw in our sleep. The scratching would continue to be there when the lights were off and the room was pitch black, save for the moonlight coming through the window. Now, though, it would happen every time I went near the front door, and every time we said Rap-Rat's name, it sounded like something very small was digging out something outside, across the ground, outside of the door, pacing and waiting. I would simply wait myself, with the covers pulled up to my neck until I scumbled, exhausted. At this point, I was determined to sue the company for damages. The first thing I did was call my mother and ask where she got Rap-Rat. She had no idea. I found a merchant who sold versions of Rap-Rat and asked how I could get in touch with the company. He sent me this email. I don't know about the game, but I do know it was created by the same people who created Nightmare. The company is called A Couple of Cowboys. Drive in. I did a bit more research and discovered that the company became defunct in 1994, only 2 years after they created Rap-Rat. I discovered soon why after. How Rap-Rat came to be was in 1992, the year of the game's development. A couple of cowboys commissioned a manufacturing company in 80 to create the doll portrayed in the game. The company who created the puppet ran a sweatshop where they forced women and children to produce various components of the puppet, including the felt and plastic of the doll. One day, a young girl got her arm caught in the industrial sewing machine. The spring rotor, unable to handle the weight on the machine, and came loose and struck the child's neck, killing her instantly. A few days after the funeral, the mother of the child came to the factory demanding to see the owner, who denied that he had anything to do with it. In a fit of rage, the mother said that the blood from the innocent would seep into every crevice of the doll, every component which it was created, and that all who touched it would die. She claimed to summon a fear demon and screamed at the top of her lungs, "Apparat would curse you." The owner simply laughed and told his corporate bosses about Apparat. They spread the joke from person to person, and the game was renamed Raprat, a loose anagram of Apparat. Each saying of the name Apparat brought with it a greater and greater curse. Only 2 years after Raprat was created, the company was shut down and the owners hired by Macleod. There were stories of the workers begging for day off, skipping works for weeks and weeks, and finding the pup in strange places. Nobody knows where the Raprat doll went after the original creators disappeared. Some say that the last things people see before going insane were large, sunken, fish-like eyes. Now, here are words of warning. Never, ever say Apparat out loud. Saying a demon's name out loud is an invitation to them. A calling. If you have already done this, it cannot be undone. Do not try to speak to or contact Apparat. And avoid being awake between 3:30 a.m. and 4 a.m. when Raprat is most likely to try and scare you. As for the audio, it's back. You know, I thought I stomped on it, smashed it to Kingdom Come, but it's back. I found it in my sock drawer yesterday. Well, this time I was ready. A whole bunch of people had been asking me and contacting me trying to get the tape or some sort of video from the board game. My answer to you is that it's just too dangerous. If I did that, it could very well drive you insane and scare you to death. The video and the game and Raprat itself have some strange power. Raprat follows me everywhere I go. I see little shadows in the corner of my eye, or hear sounds coming from the hallway when I'm the only person in the house. If Raprat is there, it will let you know, but it will never let you see it.